Hello everyone, welcome to University Speaks. I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Wyatt.
And today we are talking all things basketball. With the coming season approaching, we are going to get into some NBA topics.
And we're going to get into some preseason observations, influential trades from the offseason, and our picks for this season.
So before we get into the good stuff, let's hear from Justine, where she got to hear some predictions from students on campus.
Hi, it's Justine with University Speaks, and today we're going to be asking people what their NBA conference picks are. Can I ask you what your Western Conference pick is?
Lakers.
I'd say Golden State Warriors.
For Western Conference pick, I might take the Clippers.
Clippers?
I want to see Clippers win a championship, I think.
Golden State, of course.
I'll go with the Lakers.
The Nuggets.
I'm gonna say the Warriors.
The Suns. Go
Suns?
the Suns.
Okay.
The Suns. The Suns. And your Eastern Conference pick?
Milwaukee.
Miami Heat.
Probably the Celtics.
Oh, I gotta go Boston.
Boston.
Or Milwaukee, but I gotta go Boston.
The Bucks for sure.
Bucks.
I'm gonna go Boston.
Boston.
I'm gonna go Boston.
Fair.
But I'm not sticking with that one. But right now, I'm gonna say Boston.
I want it to be Miami. That's my
Let's
team.
go. Miami. Go Kyle. Go. Who do you think is going to take the finals?
Lakers, baby. Lakers in 6.
Lakers. Always the Lakers.
Probably Miami Heat.
I mean, I want Celtics to take it. Probably Celtics, yeah.
Okay.
Golden State, okay.
Golden State.
I'll be honest, I would say the Bucks right now. Yeah.
The Nuggets.
Nuggets. All right.
I want to say Miami, but I'm gonna say Warriors.
True.
Hopefully the Miami.
Let's go. Miami Heat for the win, guys. Well, that was UNLV students with their NBA conference picks. And I think the final verdict, it's pretty clear to say that Miami is taking the W. See you guys at finals. It's Miami.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Justine, for showing us some very bold NBA predictions.
So now that we've heard from other UNLV students, we want to do the same.
So, to jump right into it, I think that we should start with preseason. We got to see not so many games yet, right? But we got to see some good things. So, right off the bat, and this one kind of overlaps with trades, but I want to talk about what I saw from CP on the Warriors, right? Because that was such a huge thing. So, personally, one game, so you can't judge from one game, right? But I think it was fairly obvious that he's a very good fit. You could already see his impact. He played 13 points, 6 points, 5 assists, 13 minutes, 6 points, 5 assists.
Yeah.
And so you can already see just how efficient he was. But, and this is a very big but, and this is where I think we're gonna disagree. Well, maybe not. I know how you feel about the Warriors. But I think that the addition of CP was not necessarily enough to make up for the loss of Poole, short-term and long-term, right? Because Poole was always that firepower for them. And long-term, you have Jordan Poole is 24, right? CP's 38. So to me, that's the biggest thing. I'm like, that's just where I don't know if that really makes up for it. However, I do think they're still going to be a great team. Do I think they're going to be significantly better? No. I think if anything, they're going to be the same. If not, I think they're going to struggle a little bit because they don't have Poole out there.
It's interesting you mentioned the age because that's definitely something that's going to stand out with the fact that Jordan being 24 and being so young and his entire career is right in front of him. But what's an interesting thing about CP3 that you can't get a lot now is that veteranship. This league thrives on it. We have a lot of young guys in this league, especially for this Warriors team. A lot of guys are now kind of getting a lot more turnover of, you have some people coming in like a Dante DiVincenzo. He came in for a little bit, but he's now with the Knicks. With stuff like that, CP3 comes in, brings in that mental aspect of the game that goes so far, that championship caliber. Of course, he hasn't been in the promised land of winning a ring. He's been there before, and that just helps add to the championship caliber that this Warriors team has. One of the things I'll be interested to see, everyone was talking about, okay, is he going to be starting? Is he going to be going into as a sixth man? I think regardless, whatever he does, he'll be very beneficial to the non-Steph Curry minutes, and we saw that with his efficiency. Of course, Jordan Poole did have a lot of firepower, but I think with one of the issues that he had was primarily with his consistency. It wasn't always there. Some games you would see, and of course there were those memes of, okay, the people sitting courtside and all that. You know, that's something CP3 brings to this team that was lacking last year. Of course, Andrew Wiggins had a 2-month hiatus in the midst of the season and then came back right in time for playoffs. But you saw them kind of thrown off by that, and for him specifically to get that conditioning back. So having that veteranship in the locker room is going to be crucial. I know you said Cam Thomas was someone else that stood out to you last season. You know, he got some minutes at the end, showcased a lot of his talents and raw ability. But I'm curious what you think on what you saw this preseason from him.
Cam Thomas is like my little unicorn. I see him as a little unicorn, right? Because when I first saw him, I saw him at Summer League 2021, right after he was drafted with the Nets, which is Summer League, as we know, is housed right here at Thomas & Mack, which is awesome. And I remember the first time seeing him because I loved the Nets, right? I'm like rooting for the Nets. And I was so happy because he was a 27th pick, right? And he was the leading scorer in Summer League that year over Cunningham, first pick, over Jalen Green, second pick, leading scorer, right? And that did not falter. I just think that the reason we stopped kind of hearing about him after that was because he was on this Nets team that was fully stacked, right? You got KD, Kyrie, you have everyone else, like it's just fully stacked, right? And then Steve Nash was playing the same players literally on repeat, just running them into the ground. But that's a story for another time. Right. So he was not getting those minutes that like Jalen Green and Cunningham were on the Rockets and the Pistons, right? Because they needed them, right? They were like almost the first guy, I would say, which is crazy for a rookie. But Cam Thomas, so against the Lakers, so his first preseason game, he had 26 points, 64% from the floor, and 57% from three in only 22 minutes.
That
like
was cooking.
No, seriously, this kid is so effortless, and just if you watch him, just the way he plays, I really love it. Just because he looks like a natural, like, you know. But the confidence is one thing that I think that he needs to get more minutes, especially now when, you know, the team is not necessarily what it was before. So now is kind of the time that he needs to get those minutes, you know. And obviously I've heard, you know, coach say like he needs to be there on the defensive end as well. But like that's gonna come with time because offensively he's just firepower already, you know. So he just needs to play, you know. But if he does play, I think this season it's gonna be like a come up season for him.
And with some of those standouts, both on the East and on the West side, come those trades and those free agency movings. And we already kind of touched on CP3. What were some of those things that you saw from this free agency and the transactions that were made that kind of lead you to, okay, who are your teams that you're looking out for this season?
So we'll save the biggest one for last, right? Okay, so the first one I have is Holiday and Porzingis being moved to the Celtics. Not at the same time, but, you know, so I think this is a really good move for them specifically. They were already a really good defensive team, right? But like Holiday just gives them even better perimeter defense. And I think that's just going to be great for them. And then Porzingis, he's literally a 7'3" center that can shoot. And he was 21st in points in the league last year. So like when your center is that high up in points, like you really can't go wrong, you know? And I hear some talk about him because I know he was kind of in and out with the Mavs and everything. But I personally think it was a really great move for them. And on offense, he's definitely going to help them out for the times that I feel like Tatum can be very, how you were kind of saying about Poole. Like sometimes he's just not there. In big moments, like it's just like, where did you go? Right. You know? So I think Porzingis is really going to help him out like in moments like that, you know? As a third guy, as a third option, he's definitely amazing. You know.
It's interesting you mentioned Celtics because they're at the top of my list for the East. And when you take a look at that team, they had Marcus Smart, they had Derek White, and they lost them in this past offseason. And when you lost somebody like Marcus Smart, who was a defensive player of the year and had that caliber that he just brought day in and day out, there's a lot that's lost. But when they made that trade to go get Drew Holiday, I immediately highlighted, I immediately Snapchatted and snapped a photo of and sent it to everybody I knew because I realized that was the best move that they made all offseason long. And I hear what you're mentioning about Porzingis. I'm a little concerned because of his injuries as he's had in the past. And so if he can maintain his health, which that'll be a common theme going through all these teams, it will be interesting to see how everyone shakes up by postseason time. But Drew Holiday was such a great pick because not only does he bring a great defensive presence, but he also helps on the offensive end as well. And it'll be interesting to see, which now kind of transitions into some of my other East picks. And I'll give you the full rundown on the East, and you can give me your East and West picks as well. Following the Celtics in that trade were the Bucks. Damian Lillard is now a Buck, and I have a high hopes for him finally getting his first ring that everyone's been waiting on. It's been highly anticipated that he's going to break through at some point, and he hasn't gotten to the finals yet. But with Giannis Antetokounmpo, with Chris Middleton and company, it's going to be really important and impressive to see how they just work together in that chemistry. And we're seeing on social media them joking around, having fun at media day and stuff like that. But that's going to be a scary team. And then transitioning to the team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year were the Heat. That team is very interesting for many reasons, because you take a look at it and that culture that they've built out there, seeing how they're able to just work and work and work. They didn't care about the Celtics being, oh, they have Jaylen Brown, they have Jason Tatum, and a lot of great players on that squad. They didn't care. They made sure that they did their part. They were going to hustle. They were going to outwork you. And that's the brand of ball they play. And I'll leave my little sleeper at the end so we can talk about honorable mentions. But I'm curious what you have to say on the East and West, where everything kind of shakes up after this.
Wait, so those are your picks for teams to watch?
Celtics, Bucks, and Heat are must watch TV going into the season, because there's so many moving parts. If they're able to stay healthy, if they're able to be cohesive in their game of play, it's going to do well. And of course, everything on paper looks great. It's just a matter of what actually comes to fruition.
So that was my thing with the Bucks. So they are my picks. So I have Bucks, Celtics, and then this is where I have, look at this, I literally have Heat in parentheses because when I was picking my third, it was so hard for me. But I'll move on to that later. So with the Bucks, that trade is just, that's just a game changer.
Monster
I think
trade.
a lot of teams are just spooked by it. Like, they're just kind of, it just speaks for itself, honestly. Like, there's not much to say. But I think that I'm not the biggest Giannis fan. I think you know that. But just because that style of play is not what I really like to watch. But I like the fact that they're so different and that their style of play is so different. And it's funny because when Kyrie went to the Mavs, that was kind of something where I was like, it's never going to work because their style of play is so different. And it's funny because Damian Lillard are even so much more different than the other two, right? But for some reason, not for some reason, it's kind of obvious, like, why it's going to work. You know what I mean? I can just see it now. Giannis, like, going straight to the basket.
Driving right to the rack.
The defense is just collapsing, and then Lillard's out there on the perimeter.
Well, he had a comment, too, the other day talking about, okay, you can let Giannis drive, but I'm going to hit 9 threes if you let that happen.
It's like, pick your poison, really, with this one. And it's very scary, I have to say. But so they are my pick for the East. And I also have the Celtics. I personally think the Celtics, like, they've been so close basically every year. But they just, something about them just collapses under pressure. Like, it's so weird to me because I remember when they were playing the Warriors and everyone was like, oh yeah, it's donezo. Like, Celtics, they got this one. And then I don't know what happened. It was just like a mess, basically. Like, there's not even anything to say about it. But when they're playing at their best, they're so good. Like, I remember playing them as a Nets fan as well when I was rooting for the Nets, and I was like, oh my God, it's so scary, right? So another thing with the Celtics that I also forgot to mention was their loss of Marcus Smart that you mentioned. That one was the only thing for me, because if somebody had like Marcus Smart and Holiday and I had to choose one, I love Marcus Smart. Yeah. Like, I really love Marcus Smart. So that was kind of one thing. And then also losing Williams, I think, was another bad move for them, but I know, like, they had to, but he was a really good center for them, because I just remember his playoff run and finals run before he was injured. It was very much like he was just great for them, So Bucks, Celtics, and then my third pick, if I had to, like, if somebody told me I have to put money on someone, I'm going with Philly.
Really?
And I hate to say that because I have a love-hate relationship with Harden, but I literally have Heat and Cavs in parentheses as, like, honorable mentions, because Cavs is only because I have, like, this fascination with Donovan.
Yep.
I think he's so good, so that kind of makes me want to include the Cavs, even though I know better. And then with the Heat, again, I was rooting for them so hard. And they got really far. I mean, Jimmy is crazy in big moments, and that's what really makes a player stand out, is when they can be that guy in scary moments, in tough moments. Like when you're down, that's Jimmy, right? Like he just has this thing about him where he's like, I am not gonna lose, right? But they did lose, you know, because he just doesn't have enough help. And that's the only reason why the Heat, I can't pick them. And I gotta pick Philly. My only concern with Philly was what's gonna happen with Harden. Is he gonna play like himself?
Turmoil,
Yeah, or is he gonna throw a tantrum and come out there like, no, I'm not playing, or I'm just gonna be that guy that's just, you know, walking around, like whatever, wear the fast suit, like who knows, you know? So, but I still have to go with Philly, and that's my 3.
So how about on the West side? Where do you see in the Western Conference, who are those teams that you're putting down as those 3 that you better watch out, Western Conference?
So I have, and these are in no particular order, I have the Nuggets, reigning champions. And the West was obviously way more difficult for me, because with the East, it was obvious for me, because I was like 100% Bucks Celtics, that's easy, you know? And then Philly was like the only other option. But with the West, there's so many good teams in the West. Like your Warriors were kind of an honorable mention for me.
Honorables, painful.
I actually have you written down here, little section for the Warriors. I didn't want to forget you. I mean, because of Steph, literally.
Right.
But the Nuggets, you know, Joker and Murray have to be one of the best duos in the NBA. And they've been playing together cohesively for a good amount of time now, right? So they have that experience, obviously, you know. They've done it now. I just think all their role players, every player is like almost top of their position, if that makes sense. Like everyone on that team is very efficient, and they all play together really well. So I have to have the Nuggets in there.
Understandably so.
And the Suns. The Suns, that one was easy for me. Are you shocked?
I am shocked because I don't see any depth on that roster.
No, that's their
the
downfall.
Big concern.
Yeah,
that's the big concern.
That was actually another trade I wanted to mention was Bradley Beal.
Right.
Because that was so huge as well, in my opinion, Bradley Beal. Yeah. And you know, they already have KD, right? And then you get Beal, it's like, oh my God, like they're fully stacked, right? Like they're a super team.
Yeah.
Right? So the offense is crazy. Like the lowest point average that any of them have ever had a season is literally 27.8, and that's Booker. Right. So their offensive firepower, like those 3, is very obviously scary.
Right.
But that is what you said, the depth. Like who are they going to stop? Yeah. That's my only concern. But sometimes, and I know people hate to hear this because they want to appreciate defense. And when I first started watching basketball, I didn't appreciate defense. Right. It was like all offense. But there is moments where sometimes the offense is so good that it's not going to matter. And I think in this case, that is a possibility with them. So.
And that's been a mentality of the league that we've seen, especially with the Suns team, this organization. They've had the mentality of great offense is good defense. And you're willing to get in a shootout with the team. My only concern with that Suns pick is how are they going to facilitate that ball? They don't have a Chris Paul anymore. They don't have CP3. DeAndre Ayton is now a Portland Trailblazer. So who's going to get the rebounds when they do miss? Or if KD's not going and then they try to kick it to Beal and he's already got a rhythm because KD's taking the shots, and you know now you start. That's a cyclical thing that keeps on having a domino effect. That's the only reason why I had that face when you said that. But that was an incredible trade for them too, because you have more star power. Now you just got to fill in those pieces that that glue this team together, which I don't think they have fully done yet, but it'll be interesting to see how they go forward, for sure.
It's kind of like with the Nets.
Yep.
I don't want to say just because you have 3 stars, see, look, they're not gonna do anything. They're not gonna win, right?
Did not work out well.
But
with the Nets.
why didn't it work out, right? Kyrie's injury, Harden left. He was like, I'm done here because we're 8th seed, even though everyone's injured, and he just sissied out over to Philly. But if they were able to play together, how many games did they play together? Like 20 something, maybe. If that, not even, like not even close. Yeah. So I don't like that argument of just because there's 3 stars, and they use Nets as an example, you know? So I think that the Suns can kind of like not hopefully, because I don't want them to win. That's just my pick. But I think that they'll have the ability to kind of change that little stigma of like with the Nets as being an example of like 3 stars don't work. I think they kind of have that possibility. But again, you're right. They do have a lot of things too that they're gonna have to worry about too. So.
Well, let me give you my picks on the West, and then we can jump into where we see the finals, Eastern Conference, and all that lead into the final remarks here. For the West, I got to go with my hometown Warriors. Being from the Bay, you cannot bet against Steph Curry. I mean, you bring in CP3, you have that team who's been together for such a long time, the championship caliber, it goes without being said, honestly. And one of the biggest things that they had faced last season was that continuity. And I think bringing in CP3 helps that a lot. I think they have little pieces that they brought in, like Dario Saric and players like that will allow to amplify their depth even more. And it'll be interesting to see how things actually play in real time in the regular season versus just preseason, training camp. Yeah, of course, you're shooting around, everything feels right, but how does that actually translate? And with that being said, that brings me to the Lakers and LeBron and AD. And as much as it pains me to say that, that team got to the Western Conference Finals last year for a reason. LeBron has said already that he wants to dedicate this season to his son, Bronny James. And Anthony Davis has been posting on social media of his workouts and everything. I've never been a big fan of seeing those workouts because, you know, that doesn't really provide real substance of what's to come, because you can provide all of that and then you become injured. And Anthony Davis is one of those players who is injury prone. A lot of people make fun of that, the glass archetype he has. He is a monster when he's healthy, and that's just something that concerns me for that team. And that goes with all these teams that we're playing forward. The Warriors, Lakers, Suns, Celtics, Bucks, Heat. To me, that's some of the things that concern me, and that's the contingency, in all honesty, because if you take a look at all these squads right now, okay, they sound great on paper, it looks good, but how is that actually going to come to play? Because, say, Steph goes down in the middle of the season, now CP3's in, Clay's got to pick up his play, Kuminga's got to pick up his play, Kevon Looney, and, you know, all these things start to add up, and maybe they don't have such a successful season, or they get into the postseason, someone then does get hurt, you know. So it's all these things that kind of amount, and now carrying that over right before we get to the conference finals and everything, 2 teams that I put down that they're young, they're really good, they need to be focused, and fans at home need to be attentive to are the Thunder and Cavs. Both very young teams, both got great talent on the teams, and it would just be exciting to see what they have.
Yeah, I agree. I think all the things you're saying is correct. And my last pick, I saved one. I haven't mentioned one for the West,
Let me hear it.
but I'm saving it because it's my pick for
Everything.
the championship.
Okay.
So are we ready to
Go ahead. Yeah.
I got the Clips.
Got the Clippers.
I got the Clips, baby. And I
Okay.
haven't said anything about them because I wanted it to be a surprise.
Okay.
But, you know, disclaimer, yes, it is my team, okay? But I haven't picked them in the past. And with the Clippers, I just think this is the first year that they're going to start out as a cohesive team with Westbrook and their new guy. You know, Westbrook has been really great for them. So I think that this year is their year. And I think there's a lot of reasons why, but that's who I got for. But my pick for the Eastern Conference is the Bucks. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be Bucks Clippers, and then my Clips are going to take it.
I think a lot of people
RPG.
are taking the Bucks.
They are.
I do take the Bucks as of right now. They look great on paper. One of the things I will say about that Western Conference is I think the next Western Conference champion is coming out of the Pacific, whether that is the Warriors, Suns, Lakers, Clippers. Any one of those teams, I think, has a great and strong chance to do so. When you take a look at the matchups wise and the depth, I'm gonna give it to the Warriors over the Bucks. That's my finals. But here's the thing. I know we're homers right now.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one of those things why I hate predictions, because right now, everything seems nice and dandy and seems real smooth, but come time to playoffs, come time to regular season, that's when you see the real inner character of each player, who actually comes out and what team is going to be seen, not what we think is going to be on paper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got the Warriors, and I'll say in 5.
I got the Clips in 7.
7 game series
Clips,
against
Bucks,
the
and
Bucks.
7. Yep.
Okay, there you go.
But that's kind of all we have for now because we're running out of time, and we could talk NBA all day. But we are going to see what happens during the season.
And we'll be checking back in a little bit later in the season to see whose picks were right.
So That's all for now, but thank you for joining us for our NBA special, and we hope to see you next time.